What's going on, UB Bulls fans? I'm Mike Bunt, joined alongside our newest contributor to Bullet Points. You know him from the Crossing Swords podcast, Carson Gates. We call him Gatesy. It's a hockey thing. Gatesy, welcome to Bullet Points. We're excited to have you, man.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Bunty. I know we talked about it a couple months ago, and to see it come together and see UB football play this week just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to talk about the UB Bulls.
Yeah, I can't believe it all gets underway this week. UB opens their season in just 3 nights from now, taking on Minnesota, a Big Ten opponent. They're 17.5-point underdogs right now, but you never know what can happen week 1 of the regular season. It's not like Minnesota is Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State. They're the Golden Gophers. They're good. They're coming off an 8-5 season, but they are not world beaters. And if they were, this would be a lot more than a 17.5-point line. I know you've done your research. What are your takeaways after looking up more about this Minnesota team? And do you think UB has any chance in this game on Thursday night?
Yeah, when I saw initially the line was 17.5, I was like, oh, this Golden Gophers team is going to be a big, jump from where they were in the past couple of years. They had that great season. It feels like forever ago now, but last year they really struggled to run the ball. They barely got over 1,500 yards combined as a team, and they only ran over 110 yards 7 times, Bunty, and they were 7-0 in those games. The games they did not get 110 yards, they were 1-5. I think the run game is going to be a big thing for Minnesota. On Thursday, they have a redshirt freshman starting at quarterback as well, so this seems like it's going to be a game they're going to rely heavily on their run offense, and UB is just – it's weird to think about. They lost the leading tackler in the country, and yet it feels like their defense feels very solid when you have, Red Murdoch, you have Kobe Stewart, you have, these guys who've been there a while on this defense that I think we're going to have a really good game on Thursday.
Yeah, like you look at it, Sean Dolak, that's as big of a loss as UB has ever had in their entire history. The leading tackler in the nation, great at getting tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, could get interceptions, had a pick 6 last year. That's a tough loss. But then you look at it, you have the second leading tackler in the nation in Red Murdoch, who actually led the nation in forced fumbles. This UB defense, they have a lot of great players. They still have Kobe Stewart. They have a bunch of guys that can step up to the challenge overall. What are your thoughts about scheduling a team like Minnesota early in the season? Obviously, schools like UB, they need money. They need money games. They need games where they can bring in some money to the program. And most of the time, they're expected losses. But when you look at UB this year, they really don't have that crazy game that you might have had. A couple years ago, it might have been Wisconsin. In years past, it's been Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Going forward, there's Penn State, Ohio State, and Miami. But
Michigan, too.
Minnesota's not at that same level. And then you look after that, the other non-conference games are St. Francis, Troy, and UConn. It's a very winnable slate, especially for a team that has high expectations this year. What do you think about the Minnesota game? Do you think it's winnable? And number 2, do you like scheduling these Power 4 programs early in the season?
Yeah, this Minnesota game specifically just feels like the perfect opponent for this UB team right now. And I don't know what it is about this team. I really bought into Coach Lembo. I love how he coaches. The change of this team from just 2 years ago to last year to hopefully this year is a huge jump. And this Minnesota game feels like it's a big enough opponent where UB can come in as underdogs, but I feel like have a serious chance of winning on Thursday, which I think UB teams are at their best when they have this underdog mentality, both in that room and then in that national spotlight, where you look back about 5 to 10 years ago, the UB football, basketball programs, they would come in and beat ranked teams. They would have really close contests. You think back a long time ago now, even just Khalil Mack at Ohio State. I think these games are really big to spotlight UB players. And I mean, that game alone escalated Khalil Mack to the top of, the draft boards. We might see similar things this week. You got Red Murdoch, you got Kobe Stewart, you got some big guys on the defense who can really shine out, show themselves. And this seems like a very winnable game for the Bulls. Bunty, what do you think?
I don't know if I feel like it's winnable.
I think it's possible. You got a redshirt freshman at quarterback. Anything's possible.
Minnesota has played close games against MAC teams.
Oh yeah.
I can't say that it's impossible. I don't feel like it's impossible, but ESPN's Football Power Index gives UB only an 8% chance. So is it impossible? No. Is it likely? Also no. What would you consider a good performance for UB in this game? Because this ain't professional sports where you can honestly go out and expect your team to have a chance at winning any given game. When UB is 17.5-point favorites, the odds are not likely of them winning this game. But if you're a fan of UB and you're hoping for a good season and you're expecting them to compete for a MAC championship, what is a good result in this game? I would tell you keep it within 10.
Yep.
I'm probably feeling pretty good about this game, but it depends on how that 10 is. Are you down big and then you get a couple late touchdowns to make it look like it was a close game? Or are you competitive throughout, have it be a game in the third, maybe early fourth quarter, and then a few things don't go your way? And if they keep this within a touchdown, to me, that would be a great performance. But so what are your thoughts? What does UB have to do to get your support or win you over for this contest?
I mean, first and foremost, they have to cover this game. If they lose by that 18+ mark, it's like, oh, either, this team isn't where we think it is or where they think they should be, or this Minnesota team is just completely off and running off day one. But I feel like for me, this game, I need to see the UB Stars kind of be those stars. You got a big stage, start of the season. Red Murdoch, how is he going to be without Sean Dolak? What's that going to look like for the Bulls? Offensively, you have a new quarterback in. He finally has the time to take the reins and run with this program. What's he going to do with it? You have some wide receivers are hoping to take that jump as well. I'm excited to see what that is. I want to see some big plays out of the players. Like if the UB offense is sputtering, they're stuck at like 10 points late in the fourth quarter, I might be a little concerned. But on the flip side, Bunty, I think, you said that 10-point margin. If they're within 10, I would be happy at the end of the day that, they walked in Power 4 school opening night and had a close game. They can do that. You can walk into week 2 and be like, okay, this team is ready to have a deep MAC run going into, as the fall kind of picks up.
And we're not going to spend too much time talking about this matchup.
Yeah.
The main reason being it's a new year, things change. And
especially
honestly,
in today's football world, Bunty.
We'll talk more about the season in general, what we expect about the UB offense, the defense, expectations, and some other things, players to watch, stuff like that later in the show. Once we get into the year and we've seen a few games, we know what to expect, then we can talk more definitively about matchups, different things like that. Because right now, you just don't know who's going to pop. There's guys that might be third string last year that might be stars. And I can't tell you who's going to be great, who's not going to be
transfers
great.
And everything too.
What I can tell you is Minnesota has a good coach in PJ Fleck, who has a good track record, was in the MAC at Western Michigan, coached them to a Cotton Bowl and a top 25 season. Has he had the level of success in Minnesota that he probably was hoping for? No, but he's still pretty solid. And Minnesota isn't the easiest job in the world. It's a quality Big Ten school, but not a blue blood by any means. Let's transition to another huge story for UB fans right now, and that is Sean Dolak impressing in the preseason with the LA Rams. He was a tackle machine in the first half of his first 2 games. Didn't even play in the third game, which is normally a good sign that he's probably going to make the roster as a UDFA. I know a lot of Bills fans, that's tough for Bills fans to kind of accept, especially with their linebacker situation where you have a guy like Balen Spector that ends up getting released, and now you look at it in hindsight, maybe Dolak could have made it with the Bills, but Dolak also chose LA for a reason. Maybe didn't want to compete with Joe Andreessen, another former UB Bull, making the Bills roster along with Cam Lewis and obviously Jamarcus Ingram. Still have Khalil Mack playing football. So a lot of Bulls making their marks in the NFL. How have you been able to see Sean Dolak at all this preseason, and what's your takeaways from what he's doing with the Rams?
Yeah, I mean, he's doing exactly what he did for UB, just in the NFL now. And it's weird because the Bills have done such a good job at, bringing in UB players and getting to the next level. It felt like a slam dunk that Sean Dolak was going to be with the Bills organization, this year, where whether it be that 7th round pick or UDFA, like he would come to Buffalo. And good for him. He's balling out in a new organization in LA in the sun and practicing with the ones. He's there. He's looks like he's just a lock on that team. He's proven himself. He's gotten there. Like, you can't be happier for a guy than Sean Dolak. His whole story, getting UB and everything, where he is now, it's awesome to see. And it's good to see too for the Bulls, where you see a guy dominating in Buffalo, dominating the MAC, and that translates to that next level. So it's exciting thing to see, Bunty.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Dolak, and this is my honest opinion, and call me biased because I actually covered Dolak and I wasn't covering UB the 1 year that Joe Andreessen was there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dolak has a higher upside than Joe Andreessen. Joe Andreessen's a great athlete. He's a great person. I think he's been a good special teams player, and he's a quality backup linebacker for the Bills. Sean Dolak was a star at UB. First team consensus All-American. Not even Khalil Mack can say that during his time at UB. Was a second team All-American. I don't know how he wasn't a first team All-American. But Sean Dolak led the nation in tackles, great at getting sacks, interceptions, tackles for loss. And the All-American status was part of a great defense last year, a surprise UB squad that went 9-4, won a bowl game. And you look at what he's doing in LA right now, it just looks like he fits in. He's a smart, intelligent player that is in the right spot and makes plays. And one thing that really bothered me all throughout last year was all the people that said, well, he's just getting numbers because he's a product of the UB system. He's not really a good athlete. He's not going to be able to carry this over. And I think that bias even carried into NFL scouting because he didn't get invited to one college all-star game after the season, doesn't get invited to the combine. And then it's ironic. Everybody said he wouldn't test well. And then he tested great, where his 40 time was fine. And he was at like a RAS score of like over a 9. So like he was in the 90th percentile of linebackers that have been up for the NFL draft in the last like 25 years. So I thought it was really disrespectful how the league and the college evaluators treated him throughout the process. And if he ends up making the Rams roster, some people will say, well, based on him coming from a smaller school and everything, he wasn't overlooked, but that he had to go through this. That's bull. That's bull.
He led the country in tackles.
He was absolutely disrespected. And if he makes the Rams, in my opinion, that just shows how much people miss. And it's kind of annoying on one way because like you're UB and you're trying to recruit people and you're saying, look, we have a first team All-American. Look at like you can come here and be something. And then at the same point, the guy doesn't get drafted. He doesn't go to the combine. Like, does that make recruiting easier or harder? I don't know. Like, because it shows even when you have success at UB, you might be disrespected. But good to see him having success at the next level. Any final thoughts on Dolak?
Yeah, I mean, I just couldn't be happier to see him getting that success. I obviously would wish it'd be for the Bills. You know, how could you not? But nothing's better than seeing Bulls get to that next level and then have that, success. Granted, just the preseason, but you see, Kuntz get a new deal. You see Ingram, Lewis be a strong part of this Bills team. It's exciting to see, Bulls players get to that next level, carve out, careers in the NFL.
Now, with this team right now, obviously Sean Dolak was the guy going into last year to watch. It was a pretty obvious one. And I think there is a pretty obvious one for who to watch this year. But are we going to talk about that guy first that we're seeing right here? Or are we going to bring up some other names? Gatesy, who's your Bulls player to watch heading into the 25 season?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it nail on, Bunty. Like, how could you not just want to watch Red Murdoch? What he does last year, the insane numbers he put up. Now this year, what's he doing without Sean Dolak there? I think he's still going to have a career year. But there's another guy I really want to look at, especially this week one against Minnesota. I think this could be a big coming out party for Kobe Stewart, the edge rusher, put up big numbers last year. And I think Minnesota is going to be running the ball heavily on Thursday. He should have a big game for the Bulls. And if he can have an outing where he has tackle for a loss, get a sack in there, I think that's going to really help this Bulls team on Thursday and going into next season. The UB edge rush, I think, it's in my mind, throughout like generations of UB football, you have, your Khalil Macks, your Kuntz, like you have your guys who just kind of define a generation of Bulls football. I'm hoping this can be Stewart's year where he can get the Bulls to that next level defensively. And if you have a combination of Murdoch in the middle, You have Kobe rushing. This Bulls defense is looking very stout and should really stymie a lot of MAC offense, Bunty. But who is your guy you're looking at going to the season?
So mine might be a surprise to you. He loves calling you salad. At least for him, and I know who he is. That's a sign of respect, Gates.
I appreciate it.
So just take.
You gave me the nod of approval on the graphic, Bunty. So
hey, you got hair. Some people don't. So my player to watch with UB this year might be a little bit of a surprise. I'm going with Nick McMillan. And you look at it, he only played 2 games last year, 5 receptions, 1 touchdown. Nick McMillan was expected to be a star for UB last year, and it didn't work out. He got hurt, and that was basically it. And it was really disappointing because local kid played at Canisius High School, I believe, for a limited amount of time. Then I believe he might have then transferred out and come back home. But Nick McMillan, obviously a very talented athlete and someone that has star potential on this offense for UB. We'll see if he's able to come back from this injury and really light it up. But if there was one receiver in this group that I could see really going off, it'd be Nick McMillan. Victor Snow's very good.
Yeah.
They also have a transfer that has played, I believe, at UConn that's on the team now. So there's some guys in this passing offense that can really go off. But a lot of that is going to be all dependent on the quarterback play and Tyquan Roberson. How is that going to work out? Roberson on his 4th college team, 3 years at Penn State, 2 years at UConn, 1 at Kansas State, and now at UB. How does somebody still have eligibility after that many years? I have no idea, but you add in the COVID year, red shirts, injuries, other things, it gets a little bit wild. Roberson is actually, I believe, 25 years old right now.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being in school right now.
Unbelievable. But that brings some veteran experience. Did have 1 good year at UConn, and you have to have talent to play at a school like Penn State coming out of high school. And even Kansas State after his year as a starter at UConn, that's a good school. Probably wasn't happy to be a backup, but has a chance now to end his career as a starting quarterback in the MAC. And I'll tell you this, CJ Agbana had a good season last year for UB. A lot of it unexpected if you talk to people that watch the team closely. Maybe a little bit different feelings inside the building, but was more of a runner when Maurice Linguist was the head coach. Didn't really throw the ball around. But if you're going to be the quarterback in Pete Lembo's offense, you have to be able to spray the ball around. You have to be able to have some arm strength and accuracy. And accuracy might not have been his strength, but he definitely had a good deep ball, and he could get some things done. Tyquan Roberson is a better passer from everything that I've seen so far. Looks like a higher talent level. The question is, can he get some chemistry with his receivers quickly, and can this offense really get going? The good news is he has a tremendous running back in L.J. Henderson, who's coming off a 10-touchdown season, over 1,000 yards rushing. And I think there's playmakers on this offense that can hopefully elevate them to another level this year. But let's get into it, Gatesy. We're going to get into the preview side of things in a second. I don't want your prediction yet, but let's talk a little bit about the offense and get into the defense. What are your thoughts about this UB offense right now, led by Pete Lembo, who, as we saw, wanted to change some things up with how they did things philosophy-wise?
Yeah, it's hard not to be nervous when you've never seen your quarterback play in your system, that regardless of no matter whatever level it is at. But Lembo proved last year with the offense that was there that, I have faith in him, the system he has. When you bring back Henderson, you bring back Snow, you have a stout offensive line as well. Like, the recipe is there that this Bulls team can have a very good offense, at least one that's consistent enough to put up enough points where their defense can hold the other offense to not a lot of points. But you see the weapons that are wide receiver, Bunty, Talk, McMillan. It's hard not to think this Bulls team is just a lot more, a lot more going on offensively than the previous years, where it's not just, we have a lot of good running backs. We're going to feed them the ball. Jarrett Patterson, Henderson, whoever they have in the backfield. Now they have options to pass the ball. Henderson as well. It feels like every year there's just a new running back that comes in the system that runs for 1,000,000 yards. I feel really good about this Bulls offense to take steps from where they were last year. But I want to hear where you're at too. With this Bulls offense, the additions that they have, and maybe even something you're looking to seeing on Thursday night?
Yeah, this Bulls offense should have the ability to be both. It should be a balanced offense is the best way of putting it. Last year, I went into the season thinking they're not going to score a lot of points. They're going to have to run the ball effectively. Now, Agbana was more impressive in the spring and fall than I anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the season, I guess I didn't have the best expectations for the passing offense. So when he started connecting on some deep balls and having some hits, I was encouraged by that. And that really set the tone because you knew the defense was going to be able to get the job done, and they were effective. But when it came to like it's a 3rd and 5, do you trust that the ball placement is going to be where it needs to be? I didn't really trust that side of things. Do you trust the blocking to step up in that moment? I didn't really trust that. And they had a surprising start where they upset Northern Illinois, who ended up kind of fading the rest of the season. But in that moment, it was a top 25 victory on the road, one that they got in overtime with the field goal block, had some magic in that game. They had an impressive home upset over Toledo. They're sitting at 4-4 after 8 games. And they went from kind of feeling like, oh, we're right in this for a MAC championship to we're basically just trying to get to a bowl game. But then I believe win the last 5 in a row to end the season, including a bowl game over Liberty, which is a good mid-major team, like a team that's played in a New Year's Six bowl recently. I thought this offense really took strides. And the one thing I liked about Pete Lembo with UB's offense last year was he instilled confidence in his quarterback. He knew that CJ Agbana probably wasn't the most talented quarterback in the world, but he let him be him. He wasn't afraid to let him play quarterback. Maurice Linguist didn't let Agbana play quarterback. He basically made him a running back in shotgun. And by giving him that confidence to be himself and let him show the best version of himself, even if that wasn't an elite quarterback, it was a good enough quarterback to play winning football. And now you have a quarterback that has an even higher skill level. You have Nick McMillan back. You have LJ Henderson back. You have a good offensive line, especially with how this schedule starts after Minnesota. You have St. Francis and Kent State. Those should be dominating performances by UB. You get to a 2-1 start, big game of the season, Troy, week 4 at UB Stadium. I think it's part of a 4-game stretch of home games.
A lot of home games this year.
I believe it's Troy, then maybe 2 games, or I forget how many in a row. But besides the point, you get a win against Troy, you're 3-1. You have UConn, you have a few other games coming up. That could really set the tone, especially with UB's MAC schedule. Their toughest games are Miami, Ohio, and Ohio to end the season. So they'll have a chance to really put some wins together. I like this offense, and I really can't wait to see what they can do. Now, defensively, they should have a lot of success against the rest of the conference.
Yes. I mean, defensively, Bunty, you put it right there. You have these big names, these big players, and it feels like, especially recently, the Bulls defense has been just a forefront of consistency for them. You have Red Murdoch back. Like that standalone is going to be a huge advantage for this Bulls defense over every other MAC school, every other competition they're going to play. Even, Minnesota, a big school, like it's going to be a thing for the Bulls of just keeping these guys on the field, and I think even just replacing Sean Dolak in a way where who's going to be that next linebacker to step in, play alongside Murdoch and take the reins from there once he's gone. But I think the defense is going to be, going into the season, something we shouldn't have to talk about too much. We should know what they're going to bring in week out. I'm super excited just to have that from this Bulls team. And the big wild card is just for me offensively, was this team going to look like? What are these weapons going to do for the Bulls? But Bunty, tell me how you feel on this defense, because I know, last year you're covering every game, you're at training camp this year. You're seeing things that, at least I'm not seeing being away from the team. What speaks to you about this Bulls defense that they are, at this next level, they're going to be able to win them games?
Yeah, it's all about the linebackers. It always has been about the linebackers at UB. The 2 positions, there's 3 positions I think of UB football historically, like since the days of them actually being like fairly decent, like Turner Gill and onward. And number 1, it's linebacker. Number 2, it's running back, and then number 3, it's corners. And the reason linebacker, Khalil Mack, like he was a beast. But then you have Joe Andreessen, you have Sean Dolak, you have Red Murdoch. The linebackers at UB, they star, and they normally get at least one first team All MAC or All MAC performer at linebacker on a routine basis. Running back, we all know the names. LJ Henderson joins a great list of people that include James Starks, Brandon Oliver, goes on and on and on. There's a lot of guys throughout the years. Jarrett Patterson.
Endless list.
So there's so many guys that I've even skipped. McDuffie, Dylan McDuffie, who eventually went to a few other schools as well. And then corner, you recently have Jamarcus Ingram. You have Cam Lewis. Like, there's a lot of corners that have gone from UB and had opportunities to go elsewhere. And I look at this defense, so it's definitely led by the linebackers because those are the guys that set the tone with their physicality. Red Murdoch loves to lay the boom. Now, he doesn't want to get flagged for it, so he's probably a little bit more cautious than he wants to be. But that when you see him in person, that guy is physically intimidating. He loves when teams try to run on him, just so he can send a message to opposing running backs. He's a force. He led the nation, like I said, with 7 forced fumbles last year. One of the best players in the MAC Player of the Year type talent. Was actually he's a preseason award watch list for the Nagurski Trophy. And then you mentioned Kobe Stewart. That's a guy that's going to be an impact player. 9.5 sacks last year. There's a lot of guys throughout this defense. There's going to be guys that step up at corner. There's going to be guys in the back end that
everybody eats.
Defensive line. There's a lot of guys on this defense. You don't become one of the best units in the MAC by not having a collection of guys. But I'm excited to see what they're going to do. I think this defense on paper is one of the best units in the entire MAC. And I don't expect that to vary much from my preseason expectations. We're almost 30 minutes into the show. We've had over 1,500 people tune in. Thank you to everybody. It's been a while since we've had a Bullet Points. Obviously, Trainwreck is growing. Bullet Points used to be one of the marquee brands of the train. We've gone through some things in the last couple of years, but we're still going ahead. And with Gatesy now, we're ready to take Bullet Points back to what it once was and hopefully take it to another level. Gatesy, coming off a 9-4 season, you're better at quarterback. You bring back McMillan. You have Victor Snow. You have LJ Henderson, a good offensive line. Red Murdoch stayed in Buffalo. He probably had opportunities elsewhere, but he stayed. Kobe Stewart is an impact player. What are your expectations for this UB Bulls football team this upcoming fall?
I mean, my expectations is for them to be the powerhouse team in the MAC, especially going into the final couple of weeks where we talked about their schedule earlier, where they're not really playing their tougher MAC games until the end of the season. This conversation should be towards the end of the year. Could this team, what's the limit of this team? They should have maybe 1-2 losses going into that final stretch, in my eyes, where you're kind of rolling through, your St. Francis, your Kent States, some of these other MAC teams that this bowl team should beat. There's going to be a loss and tour there. Like, that just happens over the course of the season. But I really expect this team to be dominant in ways that I don't think we've seen from UB football in quite some time last year. You bring up the Northern Illinois game that just had that magic to it. I think we're going to see a different kind of Bulls football win where instead of these magic, end of game things where it just feels like this is right, it's going to happen. We might see that in Minnesota, who knows? But I think the rest of the season should see this Bulls team bring it every single night, bring it to where they're beating teams. We're having these conversations. Okay, this team isn't just trying to, make a bowl game. They're trying to win the MAC. They're trying to, solidify themselves as a really good college football team, Bunty. In my eyes, I see this as a 3-loss team. You're going to be better than last year a little bit. 2-loss, I would be the happiest man in the world. This Bulls team ends the year with 2 losses. That'd be great. But where are you sitting with this team? I know you think it's crazy where they were 2 years ago to last year. How did they not get better?
You told me how many losses, Gates. You didn't tell me how many wins. You didn't tell me if they're going to the MAC championship game. You didn't tell me.
I'll put my foot down, Bunty. I will.
I don't, Gatesy.
I will tell you, Bunty.
Not crossing swords, Gatesy. I need an actual number, and I need to know if they're going to the MAC championship or not. And then I need to know if they're going to a bowl game and winning.
This is an 11-win team, Bunty. They're going to the MAC championship. and they're winning the MAC championship. Right now, they're the third best team, for third best odds to win the MAC. It feels in my heart of hearts, I don't know what the future for this program looks like. It's very hard to keep, good things going for a long time with the Bulls. You see good coaches come and go. They have Lembo right now. This is their time to win. You have Red Murdoch. You have these big time players ready to take a jump. It feels like this is the year for the Bulls to get back to the MAC championship, to win a trophy, and to prove that this team that was at the highest heights just a few years ago, being ranked, moving all the guys to the pros, have some tough years, is back and ready to take over the MAC again.
I gotta get this out here. Gatesy has UB winning the MAC championship. Wow.
I think they're looking just
That's bold, Gatesy. I know.
I'll say it. I had a little crossing swords in my head where I looking at losses, not so much wins, but the more I think about this Bulls team, the more it just feels right. It makes sense, especially in the landscape of college football today, where you see big names leaving, mid majors or whatnot, or just programs in general. The Bulls brought back their big guns. They added some help to that. You have another year of Pete Lembo. It feels like this is the time, Bunty.
So, Gatesy, this is the part that you're going to have to get used to. That might be a little bit frustrating for you.
I'm ready.
I went to a school in the MAC not named Buffalo.
Oh, I don't want to hear about these Bobcats, Bunty.
No. I'm not gonna talk about them. Don't worry about that. We saved that for like the actual weeks that they play.
Okay.
Everybody knows my history. I support both schools. I don't take bias. I'm good with both. But I don't. When I'm with UB, I don't exaggerate. Like Maniac last year when we did the pod, he was always they could do this, they could do that, and I'm like, Maniac, let's keep it real. They're good, but let's keep it within reality. I think your MAC championship prediction is absolutely possible. Absolutely possible. I'm not going to predict it, though. There's 4 schools in this conference right now that are competing for the same thing. I believe 4 schools in that top tier. Yeah. Toledo, Miami, Ohio, and UB. Last year, it was Ohio winning it over Miami. Both of those teams, outstanding quarterbacks on their squad this year. Ohio returns Parker Navarro, and they bring back their running back, CJ Bangera, who was on Minnesota last year. That's going to be a good offense. A lot of transfers, though, a lot of unknowns. Minnesota gets Daquan Finn, who was the starting quarterback and the player of the year in the MAC 2 years ago at Toledo, transferring from Baylor. That is a big addition for Miami. And then Toledo's Toledo. They're consistently good. Yep. They win at a high level. Now, the last 2 games of the year being Miami and Ohio, that's really tough. Now, the good news for UB, both of those games are home. If I had to guess, just going through the schedule, I'm going to pick losses against UConn and Minnesota. Yep. Minnesota's going to be tough, and UConn really gave it to UB last year. It's hard for me to think that just being home against them will flip-flop it, but you never know.
Yep.
I'm trying to go through my head of what's going to happen. I think Miami, Ohio is going to be a tough game for UB. So the question is, does UB – can they get to the MAC championship at 6-2 in MAC play? That's the tough thing. Can they go 7-1? Possibly. I think this is an 8-4 regular season MAC team.
Ooh.
I think 8-4 and then 6-2 in the MAC. And the question is 6-2 good enough to get there? Miami's going to be a tough game. I think Ohio's going to be a tough game. But it's possible, man. I think UB is better than Toledo. It's just, are you better than one of Ohio and Miami? And the only thing that hurts me when it comes to UB is I don't know if UB's offense is as good as either of those schools.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, though, this Bulls offense takes that step from last year. Granted, I mean, we talked about losing Dolak, but it feels like this Bulls offense has more weapons. It's more than just a one-dimensional run team where you had Victor Snow put up some decent yardage and then they lost their number 2 wide receiver. But in my head, it feels like the Bulls can split one of those last
You know
two
what, Casey?
games.
You changed my opinion. You know what? It's happening.
It's happening. Yeah, good.
UB is going to the MAC championship. They're going to play Ohio, where they're unfortunately going to lose.
It's the Bun Bowl.
No, I'll say this. I think 8-4 is going to happen in the regular season. 6-2, coin flip if they go to MAC championship or not. I'm not going to predict a MAC championship win. I do think, obviously, they're going to go to a bowl game.
Of course.
I'll give them a bowl victory. I'll say a 9-4. I think this is a 9-4 type team. The schedule is definitely there for them to have a great season, but they're going to have to win these games late down the stretch. So I'll say 8 to 9 wins, probably 8-4, 9-4 is what I'm thinking. If obviously they go to a bowl game, 9-4 is going to be my pick, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm just excited to go into a season with expectations. It really, we haven't had that a ton in recent years since Lance Leipold was head coach. Obviously, with Maurice Linguist, there was hope that young players could develop, that these highly touted recruits could turn into something. Never really did. There was one decent year where they got into a bowl game, but nothing really special. And the first year was underwhelming with Van Treese and Marks. So it's nice to have Pete Lembo. And Pete Lembo has kind of salvaged the program. He brought them – it looked like they were about to tailspin, and he brought them back before they could truly have things fall out beneath them. But Gatesy, final thoughts. We're going to wrap up after a nice 38 minutes here. We'd like not to go too long with these bullet points. Final thoughts as we go into Minnesota. Let's have a prediction for Thursday night. You said they can keep it close. How close? What's your pick? Are we going to see magic in Minnesota?
Yeah, Bunty, the amount I looked at this Bulls team today, this season ahead, the more I don't know if it's just being a lifelong follower of UB that it just feels like that magic's there that we've seen in previous teams. But it feels like this Bulls team matches up really well against Minnesota in terms of how Minnesota's going to play on Thursday, that I think we could see I think we're going to see a low-scoring game first and foremost between this Bulls defense. I think this Bulls offense might have some kinks they're going to have to figure out early. I think the Bulls cover this game at 17.5. I think we could see Bunty, I don't want to say the word, but I think the Bulls win is pretty probable for this Minnesota game. If a Bulls team on the road week 1 against a big school, I think we can see that magic there. We saw Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame last year, which is a different world. Yes, I know.
What you think, or you're predicting it?
I am predicting Bills win, money line. They're going
Bills
to
win.
walk.
Bills win. Bulls.
Sorry, I got so many thoughts in my head about this team right now, but they're going to win on Thursday. And I think that's going to start this big run we have until we get those final 2 MAC games. It just feels that this Bulls team can get into Minnesota. They match up well against them, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think their offense can do just enough to put up enough points that this defense can stymie the Minnesota offense, this redshirt freshman quarterback. I think the Bulls, and I'm predicting, Bunty, the Bulls will win on Thursday.
Gatesy.
You can rain on my parade all you want, Bunty.
You know what? We need to have a balance here, and
we do.
I will let you be the positive UB Bulls.
Someone's got to be
bullet points guy. You know, that's a joke for those that watch the Sabres, our Sabres coverage, because we're the positive Sabres podcast. Even though we kill the Sabres all the time, but that's kind of ironic. I can't get there.
It's tough. I worked myself all day to get there.
I can't get there. I want to. I would love to pick a UB win. I just hope they're competitive in this game. I've gone through too many of these in the past where you're like, well, Minnesota's they're not a great Big Ten team, and maybe UB, if they have this happen, that happen, this happen, they can keep it close and maybe they can pull off an upset. UB hasn't been consistent enough year to year to for me to pick them in a game like this. Now I would love to see them win. I hope they win. I'm going to pick Minnesota 27-14. So I believe the Bulls defense is going to be good. They'll get stops. They'll have some nice plays. I just don't know if I trust this offense in the first game of a new quarterback on the road in a Big Ten environment, season opener, Thursday night, national television, Fox Sports 1, 8 o'clock. That's a lot of stuff right there, by the way. Hopefully a nice audience for college football kicking off on national TV. This is a great opportunity for UB. If they can keep it close, if they can pull a shocker, that'd be amazing for the brand. But yeah, I'm going to pick Minnesota. It pains me to do that. My school, Ohio, played a game at Minnesota around a decade ago where they had an opportunity to, I think, tie or win a game late. And they were lining up for, I think, like a 48-yard field goal. And they snapped the ball when Minnesota called timeout, and the kicker still kicked it. And he made it. And the refs called delay of game, not because the clock went to 0, but because the kicker kicked the ball after Minnesota called timeout. Now, you see the situation in every single football game you watch where when somebody's trying to, like, freeze the kicker, they call timeout, and the kicker kicks the ball every single time. Nothing ever happens. But Big Ten refs called a delay of game on Ohio in that contest, which then pushed them out of field goal range in the final seconds and forced a Hail Mary. And then obviously you know what happened. It was incompletion. So I despise Minnesota. I despise Big Ten officiating. And I would love nothing more for than Buffalo to go into that place and just give them a taste of their own medicine, teach PJ Fleck how to really row a boat on Lake Erie, not whatever he's doing in Minneapolis. And, let's kick some ass. Go UB, get it done. Excited for college football to be back. Gatesy, I'm glad to have you part of the Bullet Points team. By the way, we still do have Rob Ryan. Probably didn't see him much last year. He still is part of the team. You'll see him on some of the shows going forward. So we're excited about that. We have a lot coming your way this upcoming season. So thanks for tuning in, the nearly 2,500 of you. He's Gatesy. I'm Mike. Let's go Bulls.